welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, guys, we are here. Avengers Infinity War. The world premiere is tonight in Hollywood. The rest of us get to see it starting on Thursday. And here to talk about it, I have my former co-host, Joshua Delangel.
Hey everybody, what's going on out there, world?
All right, guys. So I promised you that I wanted to do a show talking about Infinity War, the countdown, the lead up. This is kind of a huge event, not only in cinema, but in geekdom and comic book fans alike. Marvel Studios has done something amazing where they've taken all these franchises and blended them together and just made something very special that the rest of Hollywood has tried to copy for many years now and has been unsuccessful. So, Josh and I are going to sit down here, talk about basically Marvel Studios, the MCU. You guys fire back, let us know. We're going to talk a couple theories about where we think the Soul Stone is, who do we think is going to die, and basically our favorite movies within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So starting off, on Facebook, I've been doing a couple polls, of course, questions, and you guys have been really responsive about it. So really, a lot of the questions I'm going to answer are just the Facebook polls, things we're going to discuss, and go from there. So really, my first question, the first poll that I put up was, Marvel Phase 1. Started off with Iron Man back in 2008. It's been 10 years since this whole thing kicked off with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, a role that he was born to play, and I think that a lot of people would agree pretty much saved his career and his life.
Yep.
He's been in trouble a lot, and Marvel took a big chance on him. Jon Favreau, the director, really wanted him, and it really turned everything around for him. So I remember seeing Iron Man in theaters. Do you remember what was your experience was with Iron Man?
I looked at it as an individual film, man. At that point, I was pretty new to the whole Marvel cinematic, Marvel characters, but Iron Man just blew me away. I remember immediately wanting to go back and see it.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I think I went on to go see it about like 4 or 5 times in theaters.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me was I had no idea what this was gonna become, and again, everything kind of seemed like it went on the success of this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even though you do have the Captain America first Avenger, I felt like this is what set the tone for the whole universe.
It kind of feels like in the Marvel universe, it seems like Iron Man has for a while there was the center of it all. And then, of course, Cap, I think, kind of becoming a more popular character. When really, I mean, there's no doubt that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's about Tony and Cap.
Yeah.
Those are kind of your two main characters throughout it all. I remember I was online right before I went and saw Iron Man. And back in the early days of, internet and stuff like that, where people were talking about how there might be a post-credit scene in this one with Nick Fury. And I'm sitting there at the end of the movie, and people are starting to get up. And, this guy walks by me. He's like, what are you sitting down for? And I was like, oh, there's something, man. Sit down. He's like, oh, I heard about this. Is it Nick Fury? I'm like, I think so. Yeah. And at the end of it, you have Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury come in and say, I'm here about the Avengers Initiative. Boom! It was awesome. Blew me away. And the best thing about it was the fact that back in 2000, Marvel did a line called the Ultimate Line, where they took all their characters and updated them as if they were starting in 2000 versus back in the 1960s. And when they redid Nick Fury, they imaged him after Samuel L. Jackson. So when it was time to cast Nick Fury for the movies, they cast Samuel L. Jackson, which was great.
Awesome.
But it was just amazing that, again, it started everything off. It was such an entertaining film and just, got us from the get-go. Next one we got a couple months later was The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton and Liv Tyler. This is probably one of my least favorite MCU movies. What do you think of it?
Agreed. Yeah, my least favorite MCU movie probably to this date. Though I love Edward Norton, great performance as Bruce Banner. I thought there was just something about it. Maybe it was a villain. It was missing something for me. But in its favor, that was probably my favorite Hulk movie that I've seen so far.
See, I like the Ang Lee one better, the one that came out a few years before that.
With Eric Bana?
Yeah, with Eric Bana, mainly because of the casting. When it comes I like William Hurt, great actor, but in this one he seemed evil, and where in the comics General Ross has just been angry, not evil. And of course Sam Elliott, like in the Ang Lee movie, I swear looked exactly like him. Plus Jennifer Connelly versus Liv Tyler. Jennifer Connelly, hands down, way better. So the casting, of course, for that came out. I liked Edward Norton; he was fine for the role. The other two, though, I thought were much better. I found it more entertaining. I like the Hulk. I've read many Hulk comics in my life, so I liked what they did. And then, of course, at the end of the film, they bring in Robert Downey Jr., and you're like, wait a minute, what are they doing? People's like, they're starting to get the idea. They're starting to connect everything together. Next up, 2010, Iron Man 2. You bring in Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. And again, more connective tissue, bring in more characters. Now, this is one that's been criticized by a lot of people as the MCU is not as good as a film as some of the other ones. I enjoy it. My least favorite Iron Man movie is Iron Man 3. Right. I enjoyed this as well. What do you think of Iron Man 2?
Well, am I correct? In Iron Man 2, they kind of start playing with the idea of Tony being a team type of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's probably, I do remember that being one of the side plots or subplots is whether or not Tony can fit with a team.
With the Avengers initiative,
yeah. And I love that. I was like, man, they were doing a great job of tiptoeing us into the Avenger initiative. As far as the movie in itself, I mean, Scarlett Johansson, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And I was really weary of her because when I first, was reading interviews, I was like, they were talking about, Black Widow's Russian, and they're talking about a Russian side. And I was like, is she really going to pull off the Russian accent? What are they going to do? But the fact that Black Widow is a spy means she can speak several different languages, several different accents.
Yeah.
So, they made it work with it on that level. And then, of course, at the end, you get the setup for Thor, which came out the next year. And I got to say, I've gone back and I've rewatched all the MCU movies except for the last two, Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok. Thor is such a terrific film. I love watching that movie. The way it's told, director Kenneth Branagh does it great. The cast is great. It's a great film. So
I feel like the Thor movies now have gotten more like away from that original formula that we loved from the original Thor. Because I do like Thor. Thor was a great movie. It had a classic, simple spin to it. I felt like of him being worthy of the hammer. So it was a great introduction of that character, which for me, I wasn't too familiar with Thor until the Ultimates came out and started reading that, kind of coinciding with the film. It was a great movie to get me excited for that character.
Definitely. I thought that the world was awesome. And then, of course, rounding out Phase 1 before we get to the big one was Captain America: The First Avenger, which I remember I saw at a midnight showing. I enjoyed it. Of course, the big thing, too, was at the end credits, you got a teaser for the Avengers with it. Everyone was excited about it. Captain America has gone on to be my favorite character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe next to Star-Lord. But this one, I love this film. I love watching it. And really, when I watch the MCU films, I watch the Captain America movies, and I start with this one.
Yeah, to me, this is the first one I'm putting in. Honestly, I love Iron Man, but there's just this film. I think is my favorite. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, man. It's my favorite out of Phase 1.
Yeah, and then of course you get to the Avengers, which this is. I have the poster of the Avengers, and the reason I bought the posters is several-fold. One, it's kind of a sign for a person who's read comic books his whole life. This film broke box office records and kind of signified that while you had, The Dark Knight and Iron Man and X-Men and Spider-Man and all those ones, this was, we're in. People, regular people, comic books are here, superheroes are here, we're finally in,
Yeah,
kind of acceptance by the regular people. And then also the fact that Marvel did something that no one thought they could do, which is they made a cinematic universe. Never done in Hollywood before. Successfully, they made it feel like a comic book where you have Marvel Comics where Spider-Man can pop up in Iron Man, Thor can guest star in Hulk, and everyone's in the Avengers comic. They turned Hollywood into a comic book, which I loved, and it was so damn entertaining.
Man, every time there's an Avengers film coming out, especially this one, I remember this feeling. It feels like a freaking Super Bowl, man. It feels like the week of the Super Bowl. It's all coming together. It's all going down, and man, this film it delivered.
I wanted to see a midnight showing so bad of it, and this was before they had assigned seating actually in a lot of movie theaters. So Lisa and I ended up second row, looking straight up at the screen. Oh my God, we hated it so bad, but we were so entertained by it that we were like, oh my God, that was so awesome.
Yeah, you didn't care.
But we went back, of course, like 2 days later and saw it in a much better seat. And then, of course, the end, we got to tease Thanos.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought, well, is that Red Skull? I'm like, no, that's not Red Skull. Okay, I had to correct so many people that it wasn't Red Skull. It's gonna
be so much bigger than Red Skull.
And also, we knew exactly it was Thanos. Which, if you read comic books, if you know comic books, Thanos' big thing was the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity Stones. So anyone who knew Marvel knew what was about to happen. Yep. And it was just so awesome. So, according to Facebook, our poll, Phase 1 movies, the top movie, everyone's favorite, was Iron Man, followed by Captain America, and then Thor. What is your favorite movie in the MCU Phase 1, not Avengers?
Captain America. First
Captain
Avenger.
America?
It's close between Iron Man and First Avenger.
These three movies, the thing is I love is they're all so different, and I love them equally. If I could only watch one, it would be Captain America, just because Captain America is my favorite character. Yeah. But all those films are so terrific. It's just amazing to me.
Well, I mean, I've heard previously that Captain America: First Avenger was a little slow, especially compared to Thor or Iron Man, full of entertainment, action. Mm-hmm. But to me, Captain America was a balanced movie. You had the action, you had the beginning, the origin story of Captain America, and that's probably one of my favorite things.
Okay.
Is them retelling the Captain America origin and where he started off.
Definitely. Cool.
Steve Rogers.
All right, so then moving on to Phase 2. Started off, you had Iron Man 3. Probably, I want to say it's probably my least, if not my second least favorite film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not directed by Jon Favreau like the first two. So you had Shane Black, who I'm a fan of. The things that I didn't like about this film was, number one, the villain. I didn't like the way that went. Number two, I liked how they started off dealing with kind of Tony post-traumatic stress from going into outer space in Avengers, and they kind of dropped it halfway through the film. I wish they would have followed that through. And number three, they gave Pepper powers, which I'm sure we're never going to hear about ever again. And then at the end, they took away his arc reactor that was in his chest that was supposed to be keeping him alive. And I was like, okay, so they could take that out at any time, but he kept to keep it in his chest this whole time. I was confused. It's like, so did he just figure out how to live without it? Is that what it is? I'm not sure exactly what that happened, but anyway, I will say it was a good close to like an Iron Man trilogy, because like he destroyed all his suits, he decided to live off on not as Iron Man. So as far as an Iron Man trilogy ending, I'll give you that, but I didn't find it entertaining. I think that was the one we saw together too. That was the first Marvel movie we saw together. What did you think of it?
Well, I remember was it Guy Pearce was in there?
Guy Pearce was the villain, yeah.
I liked the casting, and the movie itself was. I remember there, being like the way it's shot, it was great. But the plot itself was kind of boring for
clunky,
me.
Yeah.
It was kind of cheesy. I was really into the. What was the villain? The other villain's name, Moth, or
I don't even know.
It started with an N.
I've only watched this film like maybe twice.
But I ended up being very disappointed with the villain, and that was really what killed it for me. But overall, again, you got Tony Stark, Robert Downey, great combo. But
and then next up we had Thor: The Dark World. Again, another film in the MCU that I'm just not a fan of. There was one thing where Marvel's being criticized nowadays, or starting at least in Phase 2, talking about like fake killing people, like they fake killed Nick Fury, or they fake killed Iron Man, they fake killed in this one Loki. And to me, I'm like, guys, if you think for a second that when you're watching the movie like Dark World, Loki was actually dead, or if you're watching Winter Soldier and you know who Nick Fury is and you think he's actually dead, you don't know the Marvel characters. You haven't been paying attention this whole time, okay? So people were complaining about fake deaths. Come on, man. Seriously?
Yeah.
But
anything can happen in this world.
Yeah, and
man.
this was the one I think we definitively got a first Infinity Stone, because we did have the cube and the scepter,
Yep.
but we didn't know at the time those were Infinity Stones. This one was kind of the first definitive with the ether. We knew it was a stone. I just wasn't entertained. I thought the Dark Elves were kind of weak as far as villains, and it didn't work for me. Did it work for you?
No, not at all. I mean, it was an introduction, though. I mean, to me, it was one of the first films that kind of like, wow, we can actually manipulate these stones. Like, it really clicked for me.
Yeah.
Though. I remember that from this movie is we can manipulate these. These are important stones. Before it was like, it's evil's weapon. We just gotta stop them. But now the story actually got some depth for me here.
Definitely. Next up, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. My favorite MCU movie, probably my favorite comic book movie of all time. I was blown away. This is like, you have those sequels that are much better than the originals. This is the Dark Knight to the Batman Begins, the Terminator 2 to the Terminator, the sequel that was elevated it to the next level.
Hell yeah.
And everyone, I don't know how else to describe it except for it added that depth and it added that heart. We're talking about espionage and trusting the government, and that Shield was taken over by Hydra, completely changing the game and flipping everything on its ass. And it had nothing to do with the Infinity Stones too, or alien attacks or anything like that. It was a solid contained story, just pretty much about government corruption. It was fantastic.
Yeah, from start to finish. Complete. Like you said, it upgraded. It kind of made Captain America step up its game. And yeah, I would have to agree with that. This is definitely one of my favorite MCU
And
films.
some say this is kind of the film too that put Captain America in the spotlight as contender for the best, Marvel character next to Iron Man.
Yeah, absolutely. In this phase, for me personally, this is where Cap becomes like the obvious leader of the team.
Yeah.
And for me, at least.
Okay. Next one we got a couple months later was Guardians of the Galaxy, which I can honestly say I think was a game changer. A lot of people say that this is kind of where the MCU films kind of changed a little bit because of the jokey nature and the ridiculousness kind of the film. People are saying that's kind of the way we're going with that because of the success of Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, with Guardians of the Galaxy, I think I, like everyone else, when they heard they were making that movie next, were like, really? Like, I had heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. I never read any of it. I knew who Rocket was. I knew who Star-Lord was. But I never actually, knew the characters. So you're like, okay, we got Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and Guardians of the Galaxy. What? So then once I realized they were making the movie, I went and read Guardians of the Galaxy, and I loved it. By the time the film came out, I had, got caught up on it, and I was ready for the film. Total joy. I remember Lisa, when she saw the previews for Guardians of the Galaxy, she was like, I don't have to go see this one, do I? And I'll never let her live it down because she loved that movie so much. It was quirky, it was fun, and I remember the day I went to go see it, if I open the store and I'm doing stuff around, I'll have my headphones on, kind of listen to music like, a lot of us do. Sometimes I might do a little dance or whatever.
Yep.
And I go see the movie, and what does Star-Lord do the first thing? He's got his headphones on, doing his job, dancing around like, yes, this is my movie. Yes, yes, yes. And I loved it. First impressions of Guardians, man.
Well, don't hit me for this one, man. But I didn't like it.
Okay.
My first impressions.
It's got a unique taste. I got you.
Well, hear this. I saw it in theater. I remember Amber loved it, thought it was awesome. She got the full effect from it. And I almost fell asleep, man. I don't know what it was.
Wow,
I don't know if I had a fever or what, but I missed it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw it out of theater, I saw it at home, where I could really relate to it and I really enjoyed it. So basically my third or fourth time, I fell in love with it. I thought it was I really appreciated the characters. And maybe that's what it was, is I was so caught up on Captain America, so caught up on the Avengers story, that this Guardians was just kind of out of left field for me. Like everybody, it seemed like for everybody else. But overall, man, I mean, the soundtrack is epic.
Yeah,
but it's interesting to me how, like, yeah, you really can feel the difference between the MCU films after this one came out. You can really see the turn that they've gone.
Yeah,
with.
I mean, it was just a hit success. Nobody expected it to do as well as it did. It was in August, which is the tail end of the summer season, so And that's kind of, Hollywood has learned that if you put a good film out around that time of year, it'll clean up because usually you don't have anything coming out till at least October as far as competition. So it really swept. But also this film too, we got our first explanation by the collector as far as the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
And that's where we learned the cube was an Infinity Stone, and we learned what they were, where they came from, and, kind of, again, setting everything up. Thanos made his appearance. We learned that Nebula and Gamora are his adopted daughters. And, again, we're starting to shape what is going to happen, leading to, of course, Infinity War. The villain, of course, I wasn't as impressed with the villain. What's his name in this one?
He looked like a guy from Mortal Kombat. But
yeah,
I don't remember
what was
his
his name? I forget I can't remember his name. That's how a villain he was. But anyway, yeah, great film. I loved it. I still love it. I watched it, of course, as part of my review, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
Next up, we had Avengers: Age of Ultron, the sequel to Avengers, bringing them all back together again. What did you think of it, man? Because a lot of people were disappointed compared to what it was with the Avengers. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Avengers was still so historic and so, people didn't expect it. It's kind of like if you love the first film so much and then you go see a sequel, a lot of times you're disappointed because you don't get that same feeling again, I guess.
Yeah, the lack of that the anticipation of seeing everybody on screen was there for me. It was very obvious. But for me, this is around the time I believe Days of Future Past came out. I believe
it was right after, yeah.
So for me, I was really caught up on Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and that whole thing going on, and I felt like I would have liked to have this movie had to come out before maybe that X-Men film came out.
And here's my
I felt like my reaction would have been a little different.
So Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are one of the few characters that, even though Fox has the rights to the X-Men characters, since they're both Avengers and mutants, they could be shared. And then, of course, it was said that Quicksilver was going to be both in X-Men Days of Future Past and Avengers: Age of Ultron. What happened was, in my theory, Days of Future Past came out first, and people loved Quicksilver.
Yep.
And as soon as that happened, I'm like, you're not going to have two Quicksilvers survive.
Yep.
The Avengers: Age of Ultron Quicksilver, he's done.
Yeah,
I knew
exactly.
As soon as they had that scene at the end with the bullets and stuff, I'm like, yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
He saved Hawkeye. He's done, because you're not going to have two competing studios with two of the same character.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it was that made the movie kind of predictable for me in a way. And it was just something that was really no awe factor for me in this film.
I don't think Ultron was kind of what people expected as well, too. Again, they threw in the jokes with him. I don't think he should have been such a funny character. Even though they can say, oh, he was made by Stark, he's got Stark's personality. I don't believe that at all. I think he should have been a much serious, much more diabolical character. I love
the plot where this is Tony Stark's technology.
Yeah.
This is his technology, and this is what could happen.
And I'm going to get into that in a few minutes about how basically Tony Stark is the true villain of the MCU, in my opinion. But next up, of course, right afterwards, we had Ant-Man with Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas. I gotta say, when I first saw this movie, I didn't like it that much. The more I watch it, the more I like it, and I'm kind of excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp to come out. What were your first impressions of Ant-Man?
A lot of fun. I wasn't sure how Paul Rudd was gonna fit into the Avengers. When you brought that news to me, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it worked out, man. I love the movie. It's different. It is a film that, you would think it would be kind of strictly a kid's movie, but it was definitely more of like an adult comedy for me. It had, especially with Paul Rudd. It made me, I tell you what, it gave me a hell of a lot more respect for Ant-Man.
Sure, definitely.
After reading Ant-Man compared to seeing him in the live action, man, it made me respect him a lot more.
And one thing I like about the Phase 2 movies too is, again, what separates Marvel, I think, from a lot of the other studios that are trying to do cinematic universes and everything, they're all so different. Okay, you got Captain America: Winter Soldier was an espionage spy film. Ant-Man was a heist film. Guardians of the Galaxy was a space adventure. Thor: Dark World was kind of like, this god, Shakespearean type film. And that's what I think why the Marvel films are so successful, because they try to make each character or each film unique as far as the angle. We're still playing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so you can consider them superhero genres, but really their own subgenres on top of that with each character, which I enjoy too. So, on Facebook, you guys said your favorite Phase 2 movie was Guardians of the Galaxy, followed closely by Winter Soldier. Josh, what's your favorite?
Captain America, baby. Winter Soldier.
We're going Captain America again, huh?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, I said it was my favorite movie overall, so I got to put that. But Guardians of the Galaxy, I can see why it got number one. Definitely, if I had to choose a second favorite in the Phase 2, I'd probably go Guardians of the Galaxy as my number 2 on that one.
But isn't it great? I mean, like a film, Marvel's taking a risk with Guardians. They're doing something different here. And it's like a majority of MCU fans' favorite film in that phase, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it is so different. All right. Phase 3, the current phase we're in right now. And they kicked it off with Captain America Civil War. I think after the success of Winter Soldier and how well it was received, first off, they gave the Russo brothers, who before Winter Soldier had only done television, comedy even, okay, and they gave them Civil War. Civil War was so well received. They loved so much what they did with that. They gave them Infinity War and Avengers 4. 2 more films exactly on top of that. I like this film, but the problem is it came out around the same time as Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
A lot of plot points are kind of similar, hero versus hero, and a lot of people are criticizing. A lot of DC fanboys were like, well, you can't, not like Batman v Superman and say you like Civil War, whatever. This was much more entertaining. I always say it's about what you're willing to forgive. Batman v Superman, I think, did a lot of things wrong, and that's why I can't forgive the little things. Like Civil War, they did a few things that, I thought were questionable, but they were minor, so I'm willing to forgive those. Whereas Batman v Superman did more things wrong. There's that threshold, from enjoyability to forgiveness in a film. But again, Captain America Civil War, I love this movie. One of my top 5 Marvel films. Definitely my top 10 comic book films. So enjoyable. Again, it's got heart to it. It's about, the government trying to control the superheroes. And them willing that, especially after Winter Soldier, Cap knew that these are people who have agendas. And it's not going to match up with probably what's best for the American people. But I loved it.
And for me, again, you have 2 films that were pretty similar in some ways. But for me, Captain America Civil War executed the feeling of the conflict of you're taking 2 lovable characters, Captain America and Iron Man, and they created and executed the confrontation where I'm a huge Captain America fan. I almost felt like Cap's crossing the line a little bit here at some point in the movie and almost going on Team Stark. So the fact that they were able to execute that in a movie that is all about the Civil War, that's what separates it amongst anything else for me.
So this is good. This is, like I said, Tony Stark, #1 villain in the MCU, because the whole thing was, I remember their was how it should have ended. Mm-hmm. They did their Civil War thing, and in it they basically said, well, the rest of the Avengers are fine. We didn't do anything wrong, okay? Tony Stark's the one that's creating the problems, okay? He's the one that created Ultron, which caused Sokovia and all of that, okay? He's, all the other stuff they were talking about, like Washington, D.C., New York, that's none of their fault. The fault was Tony Stark. So they're in the how it should have ended, they're like, well, just get Tony to sign it. Just get Tony to sign it. He's the one that's causing all the problems. And it was. And then, of course, he flip-flops there at the end where he goes to, save
Bucky, isn't it?
Bucky and Cap. And then he finds out that, Bucky killed his mom. So, it's just like, that's a lot of people have a problem with that, where he flips. Okay, he's like, here, I'm here to help you guys. Oh, he killed my mom. Death to all. Yeah. And of course, they compare that to the Martha moment, and I get it. I can get all that part of it, but I'm totally satisfied with this film. I enjoy watching it.
Yep.
Cool. Next up, we had Doctor Strange, which I just watched last night, actually. Again, I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan. The film, this is probably the second time I've seen it since theaters, actually.
Yeah.
It was a little better. I will say there are some movies that since I've been reviewing that I haven't seen since theaters. I enjoyed it better the second time around. This one I enjoyed a little bit better. Still not a big fan of it, but it was okay. What do you think of it?
Well, to me, I always think of this is one of the first MCU videos or movies that you see on Netflix that's free. And for me, it's like, man, they're really trying to get that out there. I mean, Doctor Strange, it's not bad, entertaining, and definitely wasn't horrible. For me, it was this. The character itself, there wasn't a lot of depth for me personally, and interest.
I couldn't relate to him.
Strange.
I like
exactly.
Captain America and Star-Lord because I can relate to them. I can't relate to Doctor Strange, who's this billionaire surgeon and stuff like that.
Yeah, and to me, I think one of the problems was it kind of there was a lot of similarities with Iron Fist for me. In the DC universe, or excuse me, the Marvel universe, but Iron Fist and not my favorite character. Again, the similarities with Doctor Strange.
I got you.
The kind of training, him kind of learning.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it just wasn't there for me all the way. But Doctor Strange and incorporated with the Avengers world, like the way we've seen him now, he's great, man.
I will say that I was talking to somebody about this because I was looking at the poll, and Doctor Strange is the only one
got no vote.
Got no vote. Out of all the Phase 3, he's got no vote. And I was talking to a guy in the comments. I was like, no love for Doctor Strange. And he's like, one guy said, I like Doctor Strange a lot better when it was called Inception.
Nice.
So then I put my comments, like, my biggest pet peeve of the film is I love me some Rachel McAdams. Rachel McAdams I love, and she's pretty much just a useless heroine in this film. Like, we're probably never going to see her again unless they make a Doctor Strange 2. And I'm like, that sucks because I'd much rather see this actress that I love get a better part.
Yeah. But
now she can't be in the MCU because she's already played this love interest doctor who's probably not gonna make it past any other films. So oh well. All right, then we got to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. James Gunn comes back to direct the sequel, which in the timeline takes place before Civil War. It's only like a couple months after the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. We're introduced. Kurt Russell comes in as a villain, who I think is a much stronger villain in his motives and his plan. Better than what the previous villain of the first film was. The only problem with this is I knew they were going to do it when I walked in is joke, 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 joke. There were so many times where they had a serious moment, they immediately broke it with a joke, and that was my problem with it. Other than that, I think the story was solid. I liked how we got Yondu's kind of storyline in there too, and his end. But yeah, the too many jokes, it's becoming a problem, which I'm going to get to in a few minutes here when we get to Ragnarok. But Volume 2, what do you think, man?
For me, much better reception. We've seen it in theater. Big fan of Kurt Russell. Thought they did a great job with his character. Honestly, I didn't know he was a villain until we got thick into the movie.
When you realized what his plan was.
Yeah, exactly. And so as for getting being able to get the full effect of the movie, I prefer this one over the first one.
Yeah, and this one, of course, we're going cosmic, but it doesn't involve any Infinity Stones. We see another Infinity Stone in Doctor Strange. This one, we're in the cosmic level. We mentioned Thanos, but no Infinity Stones in this one. And James Gunn said there was not going to be connected to it as well as far as the broad scope. But we just, kick these characters down the road and make them more developed, which the next time we're going to see them is Infinity War. So we'll see where it goes from there.
There was a lot that happened in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they introduced a lot of characters too. I mean, you get a little glimpse of the gold. What was his name?
Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock.
We're going to talk about that here shortly. Yes, definitely. So then, of course, we got Spider-Man Homecoming. When they introduced Spider-Man in Civil War, Tom Holland playing a young Spider-Man. They got pretty much the rights from Sony to put him in the MCU, and it's kind of questionable at this point because I'm gonna save that conversation here for a little bit.
Whoa.
But Spider-Man Homecoming in the MCU, I liked it, but here's the thing: the previous times I've watched, the other times I've watched this movie on Blu-ray that I have, I skipped past the whole Washington DC thing, and I really liked the film. That was kind of the lull for me. I didn't like how, number one, it's kind of pretty much, you could say it's like Iron Spider, where they gave Spider-Man this suit which talks to him and has all these gadgets and stuff like that. Spider-Man doesn't need that. He's already got spider powers. Okay, don't try to turn him into Iron Man Jr. I guess was the problem with that. With Spider-Man with Peter Parker, another angle that's really good about him is he is this kid who's down on his luck, never has any money, and Spider-Man makes his life worse most of the time. But he has, with great power comes great responsibility, so he keeps on going. And I felt like they tried to gussy him up more than what he needed to be. Try to make him more than just your average kid, your average guy. The other thing I didn't like about this film was the Iron Man angle, okay? Tony Stark was, in the previous film he was in, Civil War, was advocating vigilante or superhero registration. Oh, by the way, kid, here's this suit I made you. Go do whatever you want. Don't worry about registering, just all that stuff I fought for. No, go for it. Whatever,
And this is after Civil War.
And this is after Civil War,
exactly. So maybe Tony had a better, softer approach to the whole.
Yeah, the Sokovia Accords are in effect.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too I didn't like was just on the Netflix level, all the vigilantes, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, they're in the same universe. Yes, they're in the neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen, but the Sokovia Accords are anti-vigilante. Okay, so the next one that came out after Civil War was Luke Cage, I think season 1. And they have yet to touch on the Sokovia Accords in this new law around the world that's in effect.
Yeah.
Not even on any level. So I had a problem with that. But Spider-Man itself, Tom Holland did a great job. Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
villain.
Yeah, that's what made me love. The casting was excellent. You know what? You mentioned you weren't crazy about the Tony Stark line. To me, one of my favorite things from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man disasters.
Well, not disaster.
No,
the third film was a disaster. The first 2 were trailblazers.
Well, one of my favorite things from those plots was the Osborn connection, the relationship he had with the Osborn family, and that kind of mentorship. So with the Homecoming, I really enjoyed the mentorship that he had with Tony Stark, and that introducing the suit. To me, it was a great, fresh spin to Spider-Man, which I desperately needed on Spider-Man. I was kind of bored and burnt out.
Actually, I didn't like. I thought which one? What's the guy's name? The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I liked the guy who played him, Andrew Garfield, but I didn't like the movies themselves. Yeah. So I like the refreshing. I mean, pretty much, I just forget those 2 movies ever existed, and we move on from there.
Yeah. To me, this was a fresh start for it, and I desperately needed that. I was definitely okay with everything that they introduced as far as the suit, and to me it was like an origin story for Spider-Man that we needed.
All right, so next up, Thor Ragnarok. I haven't watched this film a second time since I disliked it very much in theaters. The thing I didn't like about it, again, it's the jokes, which it's starting to annoy me a little. But they get away from what the first 2 Thor films were, which were these epic Shakespearean stories, brother versus brother, fighting for the crown, stuff like that. It got away from it. It was, like I said, I felt like when I got out of this film, I could have easily called it Flash Gordon Ragnarok, because it did have the space adventure feel, which I liked, but that's not Thor. That's not, I think, what Thor is supposed to be. Thor is supposed to be gods fighting amongst each other in this epicness. You had Cate Blanchett as Hela, which I thought was a great casting, and I felt like you didn't do anything with her except for just watch her cackle. And then you took probably one of my favorite parts of Thor mythology from the first Thor film especially was Lady Sif and the Warriors 3.
Yeah.
Lady Sif wasn't even in there, and then you killed the Warriors 3 within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You killed his best friends. Didn't even mention anything about it. I mean, it was so far from what the other Thor films, especially that first one, set up, that it just disappointed me. Hulk, I get it. You can't have a solo Hulk film because of rights with Universal. Basically, if Marvel tries to make a solo Hulk film, they can't, because Universal still has the rights to make a Hulk film. So they can put Hulk in a movie like Thor. They can't just put the word Hulk on it, though. So that's kind of how you threw him in there. But Hulk, I think, felt was kind of not even worthy of being in there, because you could have taken what he's done in that film and given it to anyone. So, again, I was disappointed. I'm probably going to watch this one again tonight to give it a second try. But as a first viewing, I didn't like it. What do you think?
To me, I enjoyed the music. I thought the way it was shot was excellent. To me, that's what stood out. This is one of my favorite Thor movies, to be honest with you.
Well, there's only 3.
And I completely hated I didn't really like the second one at all.
Yeah.
First one is a great film, but I actually like this better than the first one. I saw another time, so I've seen it a total of 3 times all together. And you're right, it is missing a lot of what we like from Thor films.
Like I said, I've only seen it once. So did you like it better those second and third viewings?
Yes, I did. Second and third viewings. By the third time watching it, I really appreciated this film as, hey, we're getting rid of, we're writing off Anthony Hopkins' character, his dad. It's just kind of Thor taking over as passing of the mantle.
I hated that scene too, the way they took away Odin like that.
Yeah.
It was I don't. It's like they throw away everything that was established, like Odin, the Warriors 3, all these things that were essential to the first couple films, and they just be like, whoosh, whoosh, nope, done, nope.
Yeah, and I kept looking, like, everybody was kind of like, before this movie came out, you kept getting glimpses of where's Thor at. Everybody's been, you kind of had a check in on everybody except for Thor. So to me, this was a fun, space adventure movie that, explained where Thor had been the last couple, months, a year. But, you had the introduction of Guardians and Thor being on the same, in the same movie. So maybe, and after seeing it again, Thor had a feeling of Guardians of the Galaxy for me. It was almost like, am I watching a Guardians movie as opposed to Thor?
Yeah, I got that feeling. Like I said Flash Gordon or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That same, like, serial space adventure.
Yeah.
That's why I felt like it felt like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Is what it did. Which, again, we go back to after that first Guardians film, that kind of style has taken over the MCU a little bit, which is not a good thing, but...
And for me, it's okay. It makes sense because you are going to have these characters riding in together, so to speak, in Infinity War.
But I will say, Chris Hemsworth is hilarious.
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, not only in this film, but of course his other films, the Ghostbusters, the Vacation film. He has a strength for comedy, which works. It's great. But, just in the sense of the Thor character or a Thor film, I didn't like. But he does a great with comedy on that.
Well, you hear what we're talking about here is the actual quality of the film. We don't doubt Marvel's ability to cast, to trust their characters. There's no struggle with characters here. It's all plot. It's all like,
Yeah.
But so.
All right, and then final film, Black Panther, breaking box office records, the third highest grossing superhero film. No, actually, no. I forget. What's the number? Is it number one? I'll have to look it up later. It's one of the top superhero films of all time, breaking box office records. I enjoyed the film. I haven't seen it a second time. I'm going to see it, of course, sometime in the next couple days. I liked it. Not too much to say about it. It wasn't bad. I didn't love it. It's kind of down the middle for me. What are your feelings on it?
I loved it. From the way it was shot to the story, the plot, the culture that was behind it for me. The introduction of Wakanda and really getting into the thick of what Wakanda is and what it stands for.
Yeah, and Michael B. Jordan's villain, one of the better villains, I think,
absolutely,
in the MCU.
For me, I agree with that. A character with a lot of depth that I would love to see again in the films.
He died.
But nonetheless, you said he died, but,
whatever.
It is Marvel.
It is Marvel. They fake deaths.
Yeah, exactly. So, but, I mean, overall, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. So on the Facebook, everyone's favorite was Civil War, which I got to say is probably my favorite, followed by Thor Ragnarok. And like I said, Doctor Strange got no love. All right, guys. And then that brings us up to date with Infinity War. Couple days. All right. So today's poll, I'm going to go through that right now. And we're going to go through this. So MCU characters most likely to die in Infinity War. Josh, I'm going to say, I listed a couple on the Facebook poll. Look through this, but I'm sure you had your own ideas. So give me just a couple people that you think are most likely to die in Infinity War.
Vision. I'm surprised Vision's on
I forgot about that too, because he does have the the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
And that's what he's signing out. We know where all the stones are coming from, or where they're at, except for the Soul Stone, which we'll get to in a sec. And we've seen previews of, something's trying to get the stone out of Vision's head, whether it's one of his minions or him himself. We don't know. And then we see him kind of like weary in the trailers. And looks like they're trying to hide him in Wakanda even. And when the army comes to Wakanda, maybe they're coming for Vision in that sense. And Cap and the rest of them are trying to fight him off. Of course, Captain America leading the charge because he's my boy. Yes, of course. It's
First to the fight.
Exactly.
First to the fight.
So speaking of Infinity Stones, this is something I've been thinking about too, is you have in the previews, of course, now Marvel has deceived us before. In the trailers for both Thor Ragnarok and our first trailer at Infinity War, Chris Hemsworth had both eyes.
Yeah.
Even in the one for Infinity War, which is post Thor Ragnarok. It was a total surprise when he lost his eye in Ragnarok and got the patch. They have a reputation or a history of deceiving us in the trailers. Some people are thinking when we see that Thanos gets 2 stones already, it's on the poster even, that they're deceiving us that he gets more. Do you think they're deceiving us, or do you think he starts off with just 2 for most of the film?
I kind of feel like he's going to get majority of them in but one.
Yeah.
And in the second part of this Infinity War will be a race to the last stone.
Yeah, and I think it's, of course, we're going to talk about the Soul Stone in a sec here. But here's the thing, too. Okay, so he has 2 stones that, are in the trailers. One of them is the blue one, which is the cube. Now, in Thor Ragnarok, Loki we saw walk by it, and we know that he's got to have it. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, we see a ship that comes up as Loki and Thor are talking. We all figured it's Thanos. He's coming for the cube. There are spots in the trailer where Loki looks like he's offering the cube up. The fan theory of kind of what everyone is trying to piece together is that Thanos comes to this ship with all the Asgardians, wrecks the hell out of it, okay? Kills a lot of people, and basically is about to kill Thor with his death grip, and Loki sacrifices the cube to save Thor, and then he ends up killing Loki anyway.
Interesting.
It's kind of what the people are piecing together, what people's theory are.
Right.
And I can totally see that because I know Tom Holland, he enjoyed playing Loki, but I don't see him going much further with his character. I think he's played out, in my opinion, at this point, so I can see him being something right off the bat that sacrifices. And Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers have guaranteed this first scene in the film is going to let you know how powerful and how bad Thanos is. And let's think about who's on the ship. Thor, Hulk, Loki, Valkyrie, all these powerhouses in the MCU.
Yeah. If
Thanos can take out all of them, he means business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we're definitely going to get a character that we're attached to in a way. Get wiped out. I mean, they have to hit us pretty hard initially. They have to shock us. Yeah. And so I would agree. That makes me bite on Loki, but you don't want to go. But I still feel like Vision has nobody can relate to Vision. I mean, what is Vision? Is a character that he's important to Avengers, but
him and Wanda have that relationship, you know. So I think it's gonna be, and that could be one of those things too. Getting a little ahead of ourselves. House of M.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch reshapes reality to make herself happier, bringing Vision back to life. That could be something. Not maybe in Phase 4, but Phase 5 or something.
Yeah.
House of M could be a possibility, especially the fact that they're going to have the X-Men back by then.
Oh, man. I can't wait. Oh, man.
Okay, so going back to my original thought was, 2 stones. You have the blue one, then you have the purple one. The purple one is the one from the original Guardians of the Galaxy, which is with the Nova Corps. Which means, to our knowledge, Thanos had to go to, what is it, Thanagar or wherever the Nova Corps is.
I think you said that, right?
Yeah, and get the stone. The Nova Corps is destroyed, man. I guarantee you the Nova Corps is destroyed. Glenn Close is dead. John C. Reilly, he might survive, but he could be dead. But that kind of kicks off because Kevin Feige has made comments about the character of Nova. And Nova is I've always thought of him as kind of the guardian, like a Green Lantern of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He has the magic helmet that gives him powers, and he is the person who steps up, Rick Ryder, after the Nova Corps is destroyed. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Nova Corps gets destroyed, and you see Nova rise in Phase 4.
Interesting. I like that.
And he's very tied to the Guardians of the Galaxy, too.
Yeah.
So I can see him coming in as well for that. Everyone's hit list, of course, is Captain America. Captain America's on the hit list. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Chris Evans has said he's kind of done with Captain America and wants to move on to other things. Maybe it's because his death was so significant back during Civil War in the comics. I hate to see him go, but if he's going to go out, Cap's going to go out hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he's going to go out in this film. I think probably next film, more than likely.
Right.
But I think it's him and Iron Man, too. Him and Robert Downey Jr., of course.
They're kind of tied together.
They're tied together. I can see them going out together. I can see one of them going out. One person on the Facebook poll said everyone's going to die in that event. I can see Nebula going out too. Given the fact that she hates Thanos so much, she might do something to save Gamora.
Yeah.
I think would be kind of a way to go. With War Machine, that's another thing about Civil War I didn't like was the fact that, Rhodey should be gone already. With Civil War, everyone's kind of complain about that fight sequence where they're fighting each other, but there are no real consequences.
Right.
But, one thing again is they're not trying to fight to hurt each other. They're just trying to stop each other.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is if you killed War Machine in that moment, it would have taken things to that next level, which is what, shouldn't have happened. But the fact that Rhodey immediately up and walking again, kind of takes away from that moment a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to fake kill him again, in my opinion. But yeah, I think those are kind of the more likely ones. Is there anyone else do you think might be on the hit list?
Of course, Vision. Vision's my. I'm betting that we're gonna lose Vision here.
Okay.
I'm starting to feel like we're just gonna lose a lot of people.
I think. Well, remember the Russo brothers. They have Infinity War, then they have Avengers 4, which is the end of Phase 3, which comes out next year.
Yeah.
So I think by the end of Avengers 4, we're gonna lose a lot of people and stuff like that. All right. I'm going through CBR.com and just seeing kind of what people are saying and why people might be losing. A lot of them are kind of the obvious ones. A lot of them are original Avengers like Hulk and Thor and stuff. Heimdall, Idris Elba.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking he's a big contender for having the Soul Stone as well. The yellow eyes. People are always going to those yellow eyes.
Yeah.
But I think he's run his course too, so he could be a person. Pepper Potts is on the list. Gwyneth Paltrow has been hot and cold in the last couple of years as far as staying in the MCU. She popped up after being gone for several years in Spider-Man Homecoming. She's in Infinity War.
Yep.
It could definitely make things personal for Tony if he loses Pepper in this one too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll wait and see about that. And then let's see. Of course, Nova Corps. I mentioned that. And of course, Steve Rogers. They give Steve a 95% chance of dying, but Loki is a 99%
definitely
chance.
gonna be going. Yeah.
There's that, man. All right. So next up, the big question of the hour: where is the Soul Stone? We've seen all the Infinity Stones. We know where they're at this point, except for one, the Soul Stone. What is do you want to go through the theories first, or you want to give your guess first?
Well, I'm gonna say my guess is that we have Wakanda with the element there that has blessed their land, and where does
the meteor kind of, yeah.
And where does this element come from? I feel like this technology. I feel like it's a result of having the Soul Stone. So I feel like they maybe have the Soul Stone. Maybe don't know it. Maybe it's buried deep underground.
Deep in the cavern.
And deep into Wakanda. But I believe it's there, man.
Okay. That's your theory. My main theory, honestly, I don't have one. Because at this point, when I first thought about Infinity War, I was like, okay, let me see what my theory is. A theory for this. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't care. I mean, if it's any place that I thought of, that's great, but I don't care at this point. I'm so excited just to see the movie and tell me where it's at. I don't care. And you know what? I'm not 100% sure we're going to find out where it is in this film.
No, yeah, exactly. Sure. We may have a cutscene at the end that's going to let us know.
Yeah, I don't care. So, all right. So a couple days ago, The Wrap came out with their theories as to where it might be. So going down a couple of them, Adam Warlock, that was kind of a theory. So when I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, at the end there, you got the creation of Adam Warlock, and at the top of his cocoon is a big jewel. And, given the fact that it is the Soul Stone, and Adam Warlock, is a thing that is created, he needs a soul and he needs power. So that's a theory as well. But that makes me think another reason. We're pretty much confirmed that Adam Warlock will not be in this movie. And if he does have the Soul Stone, I don't think we're going to see the Soul Stone in the film, to be honest. So it could continue from there. Let's hear. It's in Wakanda.
Yeah.
That's the big theory, of course, too, with the meteor. It's what's powering the vibranium and making Wakanda powerful. It gives Captain Marvel her powers. So, next up, one of the films in between Infinity War and Avengers 4 is you have Ant-Man and the Wasp, which comes out this summer, and then you have Captain Marvel starring Brie Larson. Mm-hmm. And it takes place in the 90s. I'm excited for this film, too. You're introducing the Skrulls. You have Nick Fury with both eyes. You bring back Agent Coulson, who's still alive. All that stuff. But some people are thinking that they might do a twist. In the original Captain Marvel storyline, she gets her powers from Mar-Vell, who was a Kree warrior, and he sacrificed himself to save her and transferred his powers onto her.
Right.
So how it goes. But they could do a twist where maybe she has the Soul Stone. I'm convinced we're going to get a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene with Captain Marvel. I don't think she's going to be in the film, but I think she's going to pop up in like a post-credit scene.
Interesting. So it has to be a flashback then.
No. I think she's going to pop. I think the theory is like, hey, remember, her movie takes place in the 90s. Mm-hmm. She gets her powers. She goes out into space to save, people. She's been out there this whole time. Thanos comes to invade Earth, so she's got to come back at the very end to try to help protect it.
Understood.
Kind of a theory. That's mine. Could be that. This one's stupid. It's powering Iron Man's suit. Now, people are thinking because Tony Stark has been such a center of the cinematic universe that it really lies with him. And this theory is that Tony Stark, the element he created in Iron Man 2, is the Soul Stone. I think it's stupid. I think it's totally ridiculous. I don't know why they even do it. Given the fact that in Civil War, Cap takes his shield and busts up his arc reactor that powers his suit.
Yeah.
I don't think he can crush an Infinity Stone that easily. So
well, and I feel like the idea just makes Tony as the bad guy overall.
Yeah.
Again, Tony painting him as a liar, as somebody who would keep that secret to himself.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
he doesn't know it. I don't think either. Too.
Maybe,
but,
yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like it would. Yeah, not gonna happen.
All right. Another theory. It's on Titan, aka Saturn. Thanos is the Mad Titan, and Saturn is the Titan planet. So, there is that link as well. Honestly, I don't care. I mean, I know people are wondering. I could care less where it's at. I just want to see the movie at this point. You got that. So, a couple days out, Infinity War.
Friday, right?
Friday. It comes out Thursday. So, I'm going on an internet freeze out from Thursday to Friday.
Okay.
I wanted to see it Thursday, but we have my daughter's kindergarten registration. Don't anyone ever question me about my priorities ever again because of this. Never again. So we're going on Friday to go see it. I think Lisa and I are going to go again on Saturday to go see it too. If you want to come with as well. But yeah, totally excited. So then a lot of people are always talking to, what about after Infinity War? And you really can't answer that question until we see Infinity War. What we know is we get Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers 4. And after Avengers 4 starts off Phase 4. The only thing we know for certain is we're getting another Spider-Man movie. That's going to be the first one post-Avengers 4. And we know we're getting another Guardians movie. Beyond that, we don't know what else. We don't know what's coming except for those two things post-Avengers 4.
Because we don't know who dies.
We don't know who dies, of course. And that's another thing. They feel like if they announce stuff, then you don't want to announce another Captain America movie because then Captain America is going to make it
too much,
out of Infinity War. Exactly. They're not even announcing the title for Avengers 4. Like, some people think it's going to be at the end of Infinity War. You'll get the title for Avengers 4. They're like, nope, it's going to be down the road because if they announce the title, it's going to reveal kind of some things that happened in Infinity War.
Yep.
So they're going to wait a little while for it.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, we have the looming Fantastic Four, X-Men, possibly coming to the MCU. Now, the Marvel Fox deal is not going to be done, they said, till almost mid-2019. They've said that Kevin Feige and crew haven't even thought about bringing in the X-Men and Fantastic Four, which is total bullshit. I call total bullshit on that.
Yeah, come on.
But, bringing in the Fantastic Four for Phase 4 would be awesome.
Hell yeah.
And a lot of people are thinking, too, in Spider-Man Homecoming, they're clearing out Avengers Tower. And people are going to say there's two possibilities. Number one, it's going to become Oscorp Tower, as in Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
Or it's going to become the Baxter Building, as in Fantastic Four. Whether we're going to get a hint of that in Infinity War, I don't know. No one really knows, but we're going to find out in a couple days, man.
Does it take all that to defeat Thanos? Man, Fantastic Four, Guardians,
Avengers.
I
think now.
throwing the X-Men.
Now that's another thing. Do you think Thanos is going to continue on past Infinity War? Do you think they're going to defeat him in this film, or
we don't have Adam Warlock is not a villain.
No, he's not. He's already been. I think we're going to see him in Guardians 3. We've already heard about that.
Yeah.
We're not going to see him in this one. So in the Infinity Gauntlet, Adam Warlock was kind of a key player in defeating Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet.
Gotcha.
So it could be where, again, they don't see him in this one, but he comes back in Avengers 4 to help defeat Thanos. Some people are thinking he gets all the stones, snaps his fingers, and poof, black at the end of this film. Obviously, it's just, we don't know.
And I feel like we're not done with Thanos after this film, man. I think he's gonna. You don't take a talent like Josh Brolin. You don't take a build up that you've created
for 6 years,
for 6 years, and then deliver it all in one film. Shoot your wad in one film, man. You gotta
DC.
you gotta they're gonna take their time with it and do it right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm totally excited, man.
Oh yeah. Man.
So especially like I said, I got to watch Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther, and then I've watched all the Marvel films for a little recap. and I'm jazzed, man. It's sad because it's taking up most of my time. Like, I'm behind on my TV shows and stuff like that because I've been trying to watch so many of the MCU movies.
The week, though, man. It's Super Bowl weekend, man.
Exactly.
You gotta get prepared.
I just hope we don't get... We know there's going to be those people that are disappointed in the film, but there are those people, like I always call it the Last Jedi backlash, where people in this day and age, you have your fan theories, you have your envision of what you want to see happen or what might happen, and when it doesn't happen, people are just outraged by it. I'm like, I have theories about what I want to see happen, but if it doesn't happen, that's fine, you know? Right. Just let the filmmakers do their job, just go along with it. And, you know, don't be disappointed with what they give us unless it's something that's total crap, which I have complete faith in Kevin Feige, the Russo brothers, Marvel. You know, I have complete faith in this film. I have no worries that I don't think I'm going to hate this film.
Yeah, what do we used to say all the time on this show? In Marvel, we trust, man.
In Marvel, in our Lord and Savior, Kevin Feige.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm going to approach this as an open mindset and appreciate the film for what it is, man.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, hey, we're at the 1 hour mark. Wow.
Nice.
It's a long one. I'm used to doing 15 to 20 minutes now, so this has been a while. But Josh, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Talking, you know,
thanks for having me.
Getting us revved up for Friday, man, right?
I needed this. I'm definitely going home. I'm going to read some comics.
Yeah, dude.
Hopefully watch the Avenger films again.
Yeah, I would say at least, if nothing else, watch the ones with the Infinity Stones. Like, you know, the ones that like have Infinity Stones in them.
Yeah.
I'd recommend. That's probably like 6-7 movies maybe at most. You could always do that. Or, again, just watch the Avengers films.
Gotcha.
That'd be something to do. Well, that's going to be for you guys. But now it's time to fire back. Of course, hit up the Facebook polls. Let me know what you think. What are your theories? And then come back. And Sunday, Lisa and I are planning a Infinity War review. You work Sunday probably, right?
You know what? I think if it's up to our good boss, I think I should be on vacation.
Well, you know, if you can come on Sunday and talk Infinity War, that would be a good time. But we'll definitely do that. I'm going to try to have another show up in a couple days, guys, talking some regular news that came out in the last couple days. But Fireback, Facebook group, Twitter account, gmail.com. Josh, you want to tell the good people where they can find you?
Oh, and you can always find me on Instagram on IamBatman247.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SlimDayspring12. That's it for us today, guys. Go out, review your Marvel movies, and we will see you post Infinity War. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.